पूर्णमादाः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारश्च सन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। नमः श्री शङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलासमहामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे। Verse 10th. संसारः परमार्थोऽयम् संलग्नस्वात्मवस्तुनि इति भ्रान्तिरविद्या स्यात् विद्ययैषा निवर्तते। आत्मा भासस्य जीवस्य संसारो नात्मवस्तुनः इति बोधो भवेद्विद्या लभ्यते सौ विचारणात्। First introducing the cause of samsara, which is avidya, and then giving us the upaya, the nature of vidya, and the upaya, the method of gaining that knowledge. By the illustration of this pata, chitra pata, it has been shown how there is a cause for an error. For example, in a painting, so many people are drawn, and those people are drawn with vastra, the garments. So it looks as though to us that the clothes worn by the people in the painting, in the picture, are real, even though they are not real clothes. The cloth, which is the adhara, or the support of the painting, is real cloth, inasmuch as it can protect us from cold, etc. But the cloth that the people are wearing in the painting are not real cloth, is not real cloth inasmuch as it cannot protect one from cold, and that's a characteristic of vastra. So shitadi nivarakam vastram, that which helps us or protects us from cold, etc., is called vastram. This characteristic of vastra is not there in the cloth that is worn by the person in the painting. It's just an appearance, therefore it's called vastrabhasaha. That which is not vastra in reality, but appears to be like vastra, is called vastrabhasaha. And so also, this jivatma, who is not chaitanya in the reality, it is only reflected consciousness. We have the antahkarana of the mind in which the consciousness is reflected, and that reflected consciousness, the chidabhasa, it is called chidabhasa, because it is not chaitanya or consciousness, but appears as though it is consciousness. Like reflection is called abhasa. So in the mirror there appears to be a person. There is no real person there, but there is an appearance of a person, and therefore we call it abhasa. And so also what we call jiva or chidabhasa is not real atma or consciousness, appears to be conscious, and therefore it's called chidabhasa. And there the samsara is samsara paramarthoyam. This samsara is real, or its creation is real. Sanlagnaha svatma vastuni. And this samsara, or what we call the life of transmigration, the birth and death, really belongs to Atma. Iti bhrantihi avidya. This bhranti, this error or this delusion is called avidya, that this Atma is really a samsari, subject to birth and death and whatever is in between. So that samsara really belongs to Atma, and that samsara is real, the creation is real. This kind of bhranti error is called avidya. आत्माभासस्य जीवस्य samsara na atmavastunah. Whereas what is called knowledge is that samsara belongs to atma bhasa or chidabhasa, or the reflected consciousness or the jiva. And so again the error was said that for example when you paint things, so a person in the painting is wearing clothes and those clothes are painted red or yellow, etc. So we think that the painting actually color belongs to that cloth, whereas in fact the painting is on the original cloth. But it looks as though the cloth that the person is wearing is colored. So how there is an error committed there? And so also the samsara belongs to Jivatma, but then we conclude that it belongs to Atma or Chaitanyam. So this is called aviveka atasmin tad buddhihi. What belongs to one place is thought to belong to another place. So color that belongs to the cloth, the chitrapata, is taken to belong to the cloth put on by the people in the painting, and so also samsara that really belongs to Jivatma or Chidabhasa is taken to belong to Atma. So this is called avidya, this error is called avidya, and the reverse of that, to know that the death and birth etc. all belongs to Chidabhasa, to reflected consciousness, and not to Atma. So when we look at the reflection of moon in the water, it looks as though the moon is shaking. Then we should know that all the shaking etc. belongs to water or to the reflection and not to the moon. So that would be a knowledge about moon. So this iti bodha bhavet vidya. This bodha, this knowledge is called vidya. And kaha tat prapti upaya, tat labha upaya ka. What is the method of attaining this knowledge? Labhyate asau vicharanat. Asau bodha vicharanat labhyate. This knowledge that samsara belongs to Chidabhasa or Jivatma and not to Atma, this knowledge can be attained by vichara. Vichara means inquiry. Now continuing with the 12th verse. Says vichara labhyate vidyati uktam. It has been said that vidya, the knowledge, is gained by vichara, by an inquiry. Kasya vicharat labhyate vidya. Okay, by inquiry into what? So what is it that we have to inquire into? Or what is it that we have to know really in order to gain that knowledge? So, kasya vicharat labhyate vidya iti ashankyaha. This question is, by whose vichara? Or vichara into what? Inquiry into what do we gain this knowledge? With that question, the answer is given in the 12th verse. Sada vicharayet tasmat jagad jiva paratmanah jiva bhava jagad bhava badhe swatmaiva shishyate. Sada vicharayet tasmat, therefore. Why therefore? Because the knowledge can be obtained only by vichara. So, Vedantartha vicharana jayate jnanam uttamam. Only by the vichara that knowledge arises in any field, and therefore Sada vicharayet. May one ever do this inquiry, perform this inquiry. Athato Brahma Jignasa, Athato Brahma Vichara Kartavya. Since there is a desire for the knowledge, and therefore to gain the knowledge, that Brahma Vichara, an inquiry into the nature of Brahman, must be performed here. Jagat Jiva Paratmana Vichara. That Jagat Jiva Paratmana would be the accusative plural. So Vichara, one should inquire about, so one should perform the Vichara about Jagat Jiva Paratmana. Jagat means the world, Jiva means the individual, the Chidabhasa, and Paratma, who is the substratum of all. So may one make an inquiry into the nature of the creation, the individual, and Paratma. So these are the three things, Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara, or Jiva, Jagat, and Paramatma. So these are the three principles that we encounter in our life. I encounter myself, the individual. I encounter the whole creation which is other than me, that is Jagat. And of course, there should be a truth behind all of this, behind me and the Jagat, and that is called Paramatma. So these are three principles that we encounter, Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. Sada Vicharayet. May one constantly conduct an inquiry into the true nature of all these three. Now the Tikakara raises a question there. Nanu Paratma Vicharyatam Moksha Avasthanam Phalarupena Avasthanat. Says Nanu Paratma Vicharyatam. Okay, it's understandable that one should perform an inquiry into the nature of Paramatma, the nature of the ultimate reality. Moksha Avasthayam Phalarupena Avasthanat. Because what we call moksha or liberation. So what is liberation? It's nothing but an abidance in the knowledge of Paramatma. So Atma Jnana Avasthitihi moksha. Avasthiti or abidance in the true nature of the self is called moksha. And therefore, what remains in moksha, or what remains in what we call the state of liberation, is merely Paramatma. Because abidance in the knowledge of Paramatma is called moksha. If that is ultimately what we have to attain, then we should make an inquiry into Paramatma alone, because moksha avasthayam phalarupena avasthana. In the state called moksha, the liberation, phalarupena, what remains ultimately is Paramatma alone. And so, since that is the only residual factor, then why bother about making an inquiry into Jiva and Jagat, and why not just make an inquiry into Paramatma? That's what it says, Jiva Jagatoho Vicharaha Kva Upayujyate. Kva means where? Upayujyate, that is it useful. Jiva Jagatoho Vicharaha. However, an inquiry into the nature of Jiva, the individual, Jagat, the creation, what is the need or what purpose does this particular vichara serve? So we can understand that we should perform a vichara into the nature of Paramatma. But then, what purpose does the vichara into Jiva and Jagat, what purpose does it serve? Iti asankya tayoho apavadena Paramatma avasheshane upayujyate iti aha. Tayoho, footnote number 1, Jiva Jagatoho Apavadena. So we inquire into the nature of Jiva, the individual, into Jagat, the creation, for the Apavada, for negation. Because Adhyaropa Apavadabhyam Nishprapancham Prapanchade. That Paramatma is in fact Nishprapanchaha. Paramatma is totally devoid of Prapancha, of creation. And to know that Paramatma, we have to know what Prapancha is, and then to negate that Prapancha. So Adhyaropa and Apavada is a method that is employed in order to reveal the nature of Paramatma. And therefore, this Jiva and Jagat both are of the nature of Adhyaropa. Because Paramatma is only reality, and that Paramatma alone is looked upon as Jiva, the individual, that Paramatma alone also obtains as Jagat. And so we have to make an inquiry into the nature of Jiva and Jagat to find out that both Jiva and Jagat are in fact mithya, and that is called the Apavada, the negation of them. And then, as a result of negating this mithya, what remains as the irreducible substratum, what remains is Paramatma. So, tayoho jiva jagatoho apavadena Paramatma avasheshane upayujyate jiva jagatoho vicharaha. This vicharaha upayujyate. Upayoga means use. Upayujyate, that's where its use is, that's where its application is, that by that inquiry into Jiva and Jagat will reveal the Mithyatma of Jiva and Jagat, and thus we shall be able to do the Apavada, the negation, and then what remains, the substratum, is Paramatma. And that is how the inquiry into the Jiva and Jagat also is necessary, and its help is a means for the knowledge of Paramatma. Because if Paramatma was an entity that was separate from Jiva and Jagat, then it would not be necessary to make an inquiry into Jiva and Jagat, definitely. So what you want to inquire into can be isolated in a laboratory. Then you can inquire into that and not worry about anything else. But you cannot isolate Paramatma apart from Jiva and Jagat, because where Jiva is, there also Paramatma is. Where Jagat is, there also Paramatma is. So if Paramatma is an entity totally distinct from or different from Jiva and Jagat, certainly it would not be necessary. But that's not the case. Because Paramatma very much is, because Jiva also cannot be unless Paramatma is, Jagat also cannot be unless Paramatma is. In fact, that Paramatma alone is taken to be Jiva. That Paramatma alone is taken to be Jagat also. So both Jiva and Jagat in fact are misconceptions about the same Paramatma. Same Brahman alone is taken to be Jiva, and same Brahman alone is taken to be Jagat. So Jiva and Jagat are not independent of Paramatma. If they were independent of Paramatma, it may not have been necessary to make an inquiry into that, but they are not independent, and therefore it is necessary to know them also. Thus ultimately it amounts that we have to know everything in order to know any one thing. Even to know the self, it is necessary to know what we think is non-self. And to know the non-self of the Jagat, it is necessary to know what is the cause of the creation. To know the Jagat, what is the cause of the creation? We have the whole world of parts in front of us. To know the parts, we have to know the cause of the parts. Yatha saumya ekena mritpindena sarvam nirmayam vijñātam syāt. How by knowing just one particle of earth, everything that is made of earth is as well known. And therefore, you should know the cause of this whole world of earthen parts. Similarly, the whole creation consisting of names and forms, we have to know what is the truth of that creation. And then alone, because the individual is very much a product of the total. Individual does not stand in isolation with the total. Therefore it is necessary to understand the whole life. It is not going to be possible for us to know Vedanta, know the truth of ourselves, by simply turning our face away from the rest of the life. That does not also mean that we have to indulge into life or plunge into it, but we certainly have to settle account with the whole life as it is. And there is no really possible to know the truth about oneself, because one is very much a product of the total. So what I am certainly is a product of what is around me. So what is around me influences me, and I influence what is around me. And therefore, to know me, it is necessary to know what is around, and to know what is around, it is necessary to know me, and thus the system must include everything. So Jiva, Jagat and Paramatma, they in totality, they consist of the entire system consists of these three, and therefore all the three we have to know anyone. As the scientists say, any one thing can be known if we take into account the whole system, and the whole system is the whole universe. So one atom also can be known properly if you take into account every factor that influences that atom, and the rest of the universe influences that atom. So the rest of the universe must be known to know one atom. That's what is meant here, that Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara, all the three must be known, and then alone the truth can be known. In this Vedantic language, of course, Jiva and Jagat are to be inquired into, to know, ascertain that they are mithya, and so that Paramatma who is Satya is known as their adhishthanam or substratum. While on this subject, a few questions are raised to make clear what is the nature of this knowledge. Now continuing further says Nanu Vicharena Jiva Bhava Jagat Bhava Badhe Swatmeva Shishyate iti Ukta Vicharena Jiva Jagatoho Badhe Tad Apratitya Vyavahar Lopah Prasajyeta iti Asankya Bhada Shabdasya Vivakshitam Artham Vipakshe Dandam Se Aha. The question, now we would understand what is meant by Badha. So, to understand the meaning of the word Badha, the negation, is this discussion, Nano Vicharana, by Vicharo inquiry, Jiva Bhava, Jagat Bhava Badhe. So inquiry will reveal that Jiva is also Mithya, Jiva Bhava. So Jiva also is Mithya, is a notion. Jagat Bhava, that what we call Jagat also is Mithya, and as much as it is not the ultimate reality. So this Nama Rupatmakam Jagat, this creation consisting of name and form, is not the ultimate reality. It will be found to reduce ultimately into its substratum, which is Paramatma. And when we make an inquiry into the true nature of this Jiva, then also we'll find that he also reduces ultimately into Paramatma. And so that inquiry into the true nature of Jiva and Jagat, both of them will eliminate Jiva and Jagat, and what remains is Swatma eva Shishyate. What remains is Atma alone. Because Jagat also reduces into Atma, and Jiva also reduces into Atma. Iti Ukta Vicharena Jiva Jagatoho Badhe. Thus, Ukta Vicharena, by this vichara of inquiry performed or conducted in the manner that has been stated, Jiva Jagatoho Badhe, when Jiva and the Jagat, the individual and the creation, both of them are negated. Tad apratitya. Vyavahar lopaha prasajyeta. In that case, that apratita, he is afraid now. That if this Jiva is also negated and Jagat also is negated, then Jagat also does not remain, Jiva also does not remain, only Paramatma alone remains. Then Vyavahar lopaha prasajyeta. There will be no Vyavahara. So there is no duality at all, because the whole duality is negated. All that remains is one non-dual, one without a second. Then Vyavahara is, as footnote number 2 says, Pathana Pathana Rupaha Vyavaharaha. That even this Vyavahara of the teaching and learning, that also will not remain, because there is no duality left at all. Prasajyeta, prasanga means occasion. This is the situation that will occur. Iti asankya bhada sabdasya vivakshitam artham. So now, with this, raising this question, and the author, the teacher tells us here, bhada sabdasya vivakshitam artham. Vivaksha is what? Vaktumitsa vivaksha. So the intended, the meaning of the word bhada that is intended here, and vipaksha is what? If you don't accept that meaning, dandamaha. Danda is what? The consequences are also being stated there in this 13th verse. Na pratitistayor bhagah किंतु मिथ्यात्व निश्चय है नो चेत सुषुप्ति मूर्छादौ मुच्येता यत्नतो जनः न अप्रतीति ही तयोर्बाधः तयोः जीव जगतोः अप्रतीतिः न बाधः किंतु तयोः मिथ्यात्व निश्चयः बाधः. What is meant by badha? Badha means negation. Apratitihi. Pratiti means perception. Apratitihi, non-perception. So non-perception of jiva and jagata is not the badha, is what we mean. Kintu mithyatva nischaya. See, nischaya means the ascertainment that jiva also is mithya and jagat also is mithya. that ascertainment of the mithyatvam or the unreality is what we call badha. So badha is not abhava. Badha does not mean abhava or absence. Badha does not mean apratitihi or non-perception. Badha only means, so badha is an intellectual thing, meaning it is a knowledge that occurs in the intellect and does not in any way bring about a transformation in the nature of the thing. So when I understand that this mirage water is mithya, that does not in any way destroy the appearance of mirage water. So this is like this, that here is a mirage water, and by inquiring into the nature of mirage water, I discover that the truth is sand or the desert. And so it is not apratitihi. The mirage water does not stop being perceived. I continue to perceive because there is Ishvara Srishti. So that's the whole idea that Ishvara Srishti is, the perception continues to be there because knowledge of the Ishvara Srishti reveals the nature of the Srishti, does not destroy the Srishti. Whereas when it comes to Jiva Srishti, meaning that error of taking what is unreal to be real, is called Jiva Srishti, or that is called avidya, and that gets destroyed. So knowledge destroys what we call Jiva Srishti, but does not destroy Ishvara Srishti, and therefore that Jagat, which is the creation of Ishvara, continues to be there. Then what goes away? I thought that the Jagat was real, that it was a tangible thing, that it was a source of pleasure and pain, or that it was a source of happiness and unhappiness. So this misconception on my part goes away. Anything can become the source of happiness or unhappiness if that thing is real. So I think today that Jagat of the creation is in fact the source of my pleasure and pain. That means that I take Jagat to be a real thing. Then I realize that it is not real. What is real is only one, namely Paramatma. And therefore that Jagat, meaning the names and forms of the duality, no more cause any pleasure or pain. And so the pratiti or the perception remains, drashti or the vision changes. So dvaita pratitihi, advaita drashtihi, this is the idea. The perception of duality continues to remain in spite of knowledge, but then the vision is one of non-duality. So mithyatva nischaya hai bada hai. This is the definition of bada. Mithyatva nischaya hai bada hai. Nischaya hai, the ascertainment of mithyatvam or unreality of a thing is called bada hai. Like that apple which was lying there on the dining table, which I thought was a real thing. It looked very real. When I picked it up in order to eat, then I discovered that it is an apple that is made up of plastic or clay. That's all. I put it back. Now I continue to see apple, but the apple-ness is no more there. Now I know that to be a toy, I know it to be just an object, but I know that it is not a real apple, it is a mithya apple. And this is the bada, the mithyatva nischaya is called bada. Now that apple cannot create any desire in me to eat. It cannot create anything because the mithyatva means vairagya. So there cannot be raga and dvesha moment the mithyatva nischaya is. As long as mithyatva nischaya is not there, so long raga dvesha will remain. So vairagya also really requires ascertainment of mithyatvam of a thing. A mithya thing I cannot have dvesha for the apple. I can't be angry with the apple because I can't appease my hunger. But that would be also wrong. Nor do I have any fascination for that anger because I know it cannot, I cannot have fascination for that apple because it cannot appease my hunger. Nor do I have a hatred for that apple just because it cannot appease my hunger because I know it for what it is. Then both attachment and aversion, both of them go away. In fact, then alone I can enjoy that apple for what it is. I can enjoy it as a piece of art or, some very beautiful creation I can enjoy, which I could not as long as I thought it was a real thing. So knowing mithya is mithya is real vairagya. Ultimate vairagya or renunciation is to know the mithya as mithya. Until then, the renunciation will be a little forced. Until then it requires a dosa dustya muhurmuhu. Every time my mind asks for something, demands something, I keep on reminding my mind, this is wrong, this is kshaishnutvam. Hey, this pleasure will last only momentarily. Satishatvam, that pleasure also is going to be only limited in intensity. And also, dukkha yonitvam, ultimately it is going to cause only disappointment. Like this I keep on telling my mind and taking my... There is right also. But then, still some reality is given there. But I withdraw my mind that way. But once I know the mithyatvam, the mind will not demand anything. So, no demand arising from the mind about a given thing is called real vairagya. Ragadvesha viripaistu vishayan indriyescharan. The wise man does go about the sense objects all right, but there is no raga and dvesha because he knows the sense objects for what they are. So then one is free. That mithyatva nishchaya makes a person free. Because when a thing is ascertained to be mithya, there cannot be raga, nor can there be dvesha. And freedom from raga dvesha with reference to a given thing is called freedom from that thing. So this is what we desire. We do not desire an abhava or an absence of duality, or we do not desire a vinasa or destruction of duality. All we desire is an ascertainment that it is mithya. Second line says, no chet. No chet. Footnote number 3. No, it's in the Swami. That's in the next one. Here no chet. So no chet, suppose you don't accept this definition. Suppose you insist that bhava means that in actions. That negation of the creation is that the creation should not be perceived. In fact, there is a school of thought in Vedanta also, which believes that as soon as knowledge takes place, the person will die. Because there is no motivation at all for him to exist. And they also say that he will last for 21 days until whatever is necessary in his body, etc. will take place, and that's all. He says, no, that's no change. If you don't accept bhava as mithyatva nishchaya, and if you insist that bhava should mean apratiti or non-perception, then sushupti murshado muchyada ayatnto janaha. Well then, the absence of duality is encountered or experienced on many occasions. Sushupti, in the deep sleep also, there is total absence or abhava of duality. Murcha, in swooning, etc. also, there is a total absence of duality. And also, in a moment of happiness. So, in a moment of happiness, whether the total self-forgetfulness, total absorption, when I get absorbed in the object of enjoyment, and that even that bhoktritvam momentarily goes away, in that moment of enjoyment also, there is a total dissolving of the whole duality. And so what we call an intense experience of happiness also is nothing but an experience of non-duality or advaita, because of bhokta and the bhogya, the enjoyer and the object of enjoyment, both of them resolve into one experience of the non-dual. And so in a moment of happiness also, there is an absence of duality. In deep sleep also, an absence of duality. In samadhi also, when the mind is absorbed, the same experience of happiness which an ordinary person gets for a moment, the yogi is able to sustain it for a period of time. That's all samadhi is. So everybody enjoys samadhi. And each one of us is seeking samadhi. Except that our method of seeking samadhi is through the different objects. Objects of desire, when we get them, well, we experience samadhi just for a moment. And since you are not satisfied with that, you may go in for alcohol. And if you are not satisfied with that, you may go in for drugs. In each case, the idea is to gain an experience of absorption. And the yogis accomplish that in a very systematic manner by that whole process of Ashtanga Yoga, where the mind is completely silenced. So, a total stilling of the mind by a very systematic development. So they are able to sustain that moment. What an ordinary samsari is able to experience for a moment, that moment of absorption is sustained by a yogi, and that is called the state of samadhi. Samadhi is there when there is sustenance for a period of time, and that is samadhi. There also there is an absence of the perception of duality. However, that is not called bhava because janaha ayatnataha muchyeda. Well, samadhi of course requires a lifetime sadhana or pursuit, but deep sleep doesn't require that. And so merely absence of duality would amount to bhava, then everybody in the deep sleep would become a wise man, ayatnataha, without any effort, janaha muchyeda. A person or a man would be released or would be wise man only in deep sleep because there is no duality. Meaning that if you think that bhava or negation should be absence of duality, then absence of duality we experience every day. And if that experience would amount to knowledge, then everybody would be a wise man. But experience does not amount to knowledge. Experience is dumb, So experience is dumb. Why? Because it doesn't teach you anything. And experience has to be analyzed, scrutinized, and then alone we will learn from that. And so it is not that we have to create a new experience as such. Whatever experience we have, just an ordinary experience, is also enough to reveal the truth if we really pay attention. It is not that we even have to create a moment of happiness. Even this ordinary experience that we have in the waking state, that's the reason why the Upanishads analyze these three states of our awareness or experience, the waking, dream and deep sleep, because they also reveal. So any experience is enough to reveal the truth, provided we pay attention to that experience. But experience itself cannot reveal the truth. It is vichara, the inquiry, which will reveal the truth. And says Tikagara, Sushupti Murshado Swatahareva Dvaita Pratidi Abhavat Tattva Jnanam Vinavi Mukti Syadityasaha. In such states as deep sleep, etc., Dvaita Pratidi Abhavat, since there is an absence of the perception of duality, and if according to you the absence of duality is liberation, then one would attain liberation every day in the deep sleep. Tattva Jnanam Vinavi Muktisya, then one would be liberated without Tattva Jnanam or without the knowledge of truth, and that would be ridiculous, which is not accepted. That's called danda. That's like a punishment. Meaning, vipaksha, if you don't accept our paksha or if you don't accept our position, then you land into a situation of that which is ridiculous, because if merely absence of duality is considered a moksha by you, well then everybody will be liberated, because in deep sleep, every day we experience absence of duality. It is not therefore absence of duality, but recognition of the true nature of duality, which is moksha. Now, if you go up in the introduction of verse 13 to say, Nano vicharena jiva bhava jagat bhava bhave swatmaiva shishyate. Another thing is that there will be a negation of jiva and jagat, and swatmaiva shishyate. What remains is atma alone. Now, that also should be understood. What do you mean by atma alone remains? That's the question that is taken up in the next verse. Swatmaiva shishyate iti anenapi paramatmanah satyatva jnanameva vivakshate natad atirikta jagat vismritihi jivan mukti abhava prasangat ityaha. So swatmaiva shishyate, as a result of the inquiry into the nature of jiva, jagat and paramatma, when there is an ascertainment of the mithyatva of jiva and jagat, then what remains is Paramatma alone. Now what do you mean by Paramatma alone remains? Does it mean that again the Jiva and Jagat, both of them disappear? Says Swatmaiva Shishyate, that one's self alone remains. Iti anenapi, by that statement also, Paramatmanaha satyatva jnanameva vivakshate. Vivakshate, what is intended to be stated there is that Paramatmanaha satyatva jnanam. That Paramatma is satya and Jiva and Jagat are mithya. So bhava of Jiva and Jagat is mithyatva nishchaya, ascertainment Jiva Jagat are mithya, and that Paramatma alone remains. That means what? That Paramatma is satya. That nishchaya is called Paramatma remains. So Paramatma alone means what? That Paramatma is Satya. That ascertainment of the reality of Paramatma is called the remainder of Paramatma. And ascertainment of unreality of Jiva and Jagat is called the distraction of Jiva and Jagat. So distraction is only in terms of reality and not in terms of a physical distraction. And remainder of the Paramatma also is in terms of reality and not in any other physical sense. So the wise man knows that Paramatma or the self alone is real. And that is what is meant by saying self alone remains. It remains as the only real entity. Natad atirikta jagat vismritihi. What is, we do not intend that by saying that the Paramatma alone remains, we do not intend that there is vismriti or forgetfulness of the Jagat which is thought to be different from Paramatma. Not thoughtful, the forgetfulness. Jivan mukti abhav prasangad. Of course the yogis, that's what they believe. So what the yogis are seeking, because according to Sankhya, the Purusha and Prakriti both are real, and as long as there is a contact with the Prakriti, so long there is a bondage, and that's what they want to eliminate. They want to negate the Prakriti or the mind totally, so the what remains is Purusha. But we are not in fact opposed to Pratiti. Advaita is not, Advaita does not stand opposed to Dvaita. Advaita is in spite of Dvaita. And therefore, Dvaita Pratiti or perception of duality does not threaten the non-dual. Perception of duality does not in any way affect the satyatvam or the truthfulness of non-dual, and therefore all we are seeking is to ascertain that Advaita or non-dual is true, that's all, is real. Otherwise there will be no Jivan Muktaha, there will be no liberated person, because if there is a vismriti or total forgetfulness of the creation, there will be no vyavahara, there will be no transaction at all, and so we won't have a wise person alone conducting vyavahara. So that is what is said in the verse 14. Paramatma avasheshopi tat satyatva vinischayaha न जगद विस्मृतिर्नो चेत् जीवन मुक्तिर्न संभवेत्. Paramatma avasheshopi. To say that what remains is Paramatma is tat satyatva nisyaya. Paramatma satyatva nisyaya. So, nisyaya, or the ascertained knowledge that Paramatma alone is real, is called the Paramatma alone remains. So that alone remains as the real entity, real principle. Na jagat vismritihi. And then we do not mean that there is vismriti or forgetfulness of the creation. No chet. See footnote number 3. No chet. Jagat vismritihi eva Paramatma avasheshaha iti angikare ityarthaha. If he insists that the Paramatma alone remains, should necessarily mean that Jagat does not remain, in that case, Jivan Mukta na sambhavet. There will be no Jivan Mukta at all, because Jivan Mukta means a wise man who is free even while living. So, he has definitely all the perception of duality and all the vyavahara and the duality also. And therefore, the vyavahara of the duality does not go away even by the knowledge of Paramatma, who is non-dual. And this is the whole thing about Vedanta. This Jivan Mukti is a very important thing. If Jivan Mukti is not accepted, if an entity called a wise man is not accepted, there will be no Jnana Parampara at all, because there will be no teacher to teach us. There will be a Jnana Parampara. The Swami must have told you, I am sure, Tad Vidhi Pranipadena Pariprasnena Sevaya Upadekshandi Te Jnanam Jnaninaha Tattvadashinaha. So Swamiji was once attending some kind of a seminar, and somebody was explaining this verse. Tadvidhi pranipatina. Hey Arjuna, may you know that knowledge or the means of knowledge is pranipata. In the root Gnya, when we have San Pratyaya, then we have this root called Jignyas, because there is a duplication there. So Abhyasa. And from that the name is derived Jignasa. Jignasa means Jnatum, it's alright. But then that San Pratyaya, from which this noun Jignasa is formed on account of which, that also means something. What? Until this thing is satisfied. So Jnatum itself Jignasa, that Jignasa or the desire to know remains until the desire is satisfied. So that San Pratyaya shows that limit also there, that until the desire of knowing is satisfied, until then that Jignasa continues. So Avagati Paryantam Jnanam. Avagati means knowledge. Until that knowledge takes place, the Jignasa continues to be there. And so also Jignasa alone brings about Vichara or the inquiry, because Jignasa can be satisfied only by the knowledge, and knowledge can be attained only by Vichara or inquiry, and therefore how long should Vichara be performed? Until the total satisfaction is there. And when there is a total satisfaction, only when there is a knowledge of the Advitiyatvam or non-duality. When there is no sense of limitation, separation, division, isolation or fear, all these which are caused by duality, as long as there is even a trace of that, so long the vichara has to be conducted. And when aparoksha jnanam, when I know myself directly and immediately as Brahman, Advitiyam or limitless, then of course the vichara, the inquiry has served the purpose, and from then on there is no need to continue the vichara. Tatra aparoksha vidya aptau. Apta means attainment. So when the attainment of this aparoksha jnanam, that is paroksha jnanam, indirect knowledge, or also sometimes called intellectual knowledge. Intellectual knowledge and knowledge. Jnanam, vijnanam, paroksham, aparoksham. And so when you want to classify the knowledge, there is something called indirect knowledge and intellectual knowledge, which involves more inference, etc. So inferential knowledge will be called intellectual knowledge. And it is also knowledge in a way, but not direct knowledge. So you see the smoke and you infer the presence of fire. Well, that also is knowledge of fire, but it is not direct or immediate knowledge of fire. And so also, by study of the scriptures and by Shravanam listening also, we may come up with an intellectual concept, alright, that yes, by inference and by logic, etc., I can see that what is non-dual alone, the duality cannot be real. But unless I discover the self as that non-dual, until then that knowledge doesn't become direct or immediate knowledge, and until then I do not enjoy the blessing of that knowledge. I do not enjoy really the benefit of what I am. So even though I am limitless, unless I discover directly myself as a limitless, until then the benefit of my being limitless is not available to me. And so until I discover myself as limitless, and everything is limitless, because sarvam khalu idam brahma, whatever there is Brahman alone. When that knowledge is there, that is called aparoksha jnanam, and when that is attained, ayam vichara samapyate, then this vichara has served the purpose. No more there is need to conduct an inquiry or study the scriptures as such for the purpose of knowledge. You may continue to study for different purposes, for your entertainment, whatever it is. But the need to study for the knowledge, that need no more remains. That need remains until we have what we call aparoksha jnanam. Well, the teacher himself explains what is paroksha and aparoksha jnanam. Says vicharajanya vidya parokshatva aparokshatva bhedena dvedha iti uktam. It has been said that vicharajanya vidya dvedha, the knowledge that is born of vichara is twofold. Parokshatva aparokshatva bhedena, as divided into paroksha and aparoksha knowledge. Iti uktam, this has been said, tayoho ubhayoho swarupam kramena darshayati. Tayoho ubhayoho, of both of them, Swarupam, what's the nature of this Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam? Kramena, in order, Darshadi, the teacher shows in the next words, in order the nature of indirect knowledge and the nature of direct knowledge. And this you must have heard very often. Asti brahmeti ched veda paroksha jnanameva tat aham brahmeti ched veda साक्षात्कारस्य उच्यते. Asti Brahma iti Veda ched. Veda, if one knows Brahma is, if this is one's knowledge, Paroksha Jnanam eva tat, then it is only Paroksha Jnanam, indirect knowledge, not direct knowledge. Brahman is, Brahma asti, this is Paroksha Jnanam. Aham Brahma iti ched Veda. On the other hand, when one comes to know that Brahman is I, Asti is transformed into Asmi. So it's transformed into I am that, then it becomes, because I is the only thing that can be known to me directly and immediately. Everything else is known to me only, not immediately, because some vyavadhanam or some kind of a medium is always there between I and something other than I. But I am the one who is known to me directly and immediately, and therefore when Brahman is known as I, well, there is no vyavadhanam. There is no intervening factor at all. Otherwise, when I know the objects of the world, the sense organs are involved there. Even in knowing sense organs, the mind is involved, but in knowing me, nothing is involved at all. And so when Brahman is known as the very self, that is called Sakshatkaraha or Aparoksha Jnanam. So you must know the word Sakshatkaraha. Sakshat means direct, immediate. So direct or immediate knowledge is called Sakshatkaraha. Says footnote number 1, Tathacha amnayate kramashah brahmavalli bruhadaranyakayoho. Both of these statements come from the Upanishads. The first one, Asti Brahme Vichedveda, comes from Brahmavalli. Asti Brahme Vichedveda Santamenam Tato Viduhu. So first is to know that Brahma is. Then alone there is created a ground to know that I am Brahma. And so first one starts only this way, Brahma is. Nivavachana manasa jnatum shakyo na chakshusha. Asti iti bruvotonyatra katham tadupalabhyate. Kathopanishad says. Neva vachana manasa, that Atma or Brahman cannot be known by words, manasa by the mind, jnatum shakyo na chakshusha, nor by the organs of perception can Atma be known. And therefore, asti iti bruvotonyatra, even then you have to accept that Atma asti. Otherwise there is no need. That's where the acceptance comes. That to accept something which is not an object of direct perception is called Paroksha Jnanam. For example, when I see smoke and I infer the presence of fire, even though I do not see the fire directly, I say fire is. Now that is acceptance of something which I do not directly perceive. And so also, even though Atma cannot be directly perceived, nor any words can reveal the Atma, nor can Atma be a state of mind, and therefore Atma is not available for any known means of knowledge. Even then, asti iti bruvataha. Only for the one who says Atma is. And for that I totally depend upon scriptures, because there is no way for me to necessarily ascertain that Brahma is. So scriptures tell me Brahma is, or God is. And this debate is going on from the beginningless time, whether God is there or not. And those who straightway reject the existence of God because it cannot be proven or it cannot be demonstrated in a laboratory, and therefore it is rejected, well, for them there is no even possibility of ever discovering him, because already he is rejected. And so Taittiriya Upanishad says that Asti Brahmedi Chedveda Santamenam Asanneva Sabhavati Asat Brahmedi Veda Chet. So one who says Brahma is not, he himself becomes non-existent, meaning his life becomes useless. Because the purpose of life is to discover Brahma. And if that Brahman is rejected right away, all the scope of discovery is gone, and so life becomes just useless. Therefore, one who starts, Astiti Brotonyatra Katham Tadupalabhyate. How can Brahman be known unless, other than by the one who accepts Brahman as it is? Of course, once you are willing to accept what the Shruti says, then you will find enough logic. It is not that what Shruti says is illogical. What Shruti says is very logical, but then it is not the product of logic. Meaning by logic you cannot prove that Brahman is. However, when you accept that Brahman is, you will find that logic can explain everything then. But you cannot arrive at Brahman through logic. So we have to start with this premise, Brahman is. Astityoupalabdhavyah tattvabhavena chobhayoho astityoupalabdhasya tattvabhava prasidati. Again Kathopanishad says that Atma is to be known both ways. Atma is and tattvabhavena. And Atma should be known for what it is directly, meaning it should be known as a self. But astityoupalabdhasya, the one who is known Atma or Brahman as is, tattvabhava prasidati. The true nature of the Atma becomes favorable. Meaning that this Brahman becomes favorable to be known as a self when Brahman is first accepted as being there, as existent. So Brahman is, when we start with that premise, then it creates the ground for knowing Brahman as the self. So Astit Brahmedi Chedveda Santamenam. If someone says that Brahman is, well, Viduhu Santame Enam, then people call him San. People call him existent, because he has opened the way, the gateway for ultimately knowing that Brahman is the very self. Then what happens? Tadatmanam eva aved aham brahmasmidi tasmat tat sarvam abhavata. That's Brihadaranyaka. This is where the famous statement aham brahmasmi is. Tadatmanam eva aved. Then he came to know that he alone, he came to know himself. How? Aham brahmasmidi. He came to know himself as I am Brahman. Tasmat tat sarvam abhavat. And that is by knowing himself as Brahman, he became everything. Because Brahman encompasses everything. When Brahman is known as a self, then he knows everything. So that is the direct knowledge or aparoksha jnanam. Therefore the second line of the verse said, Aham Brahmedi Chedveda. When one comes to know that Brahman as Aham or as a self, Sakshatkara Suchate, that is called Sakshatkara. एवं विध आत्म साक्षात्कार असाधारण कारणम आत्म तत्व विवेचनम प्रतिजानीते. Now the author, the teacher, does the pratigna. Is what आत्म साक्षात्कार असाधारण कारणम. That is असाधारण कारणम. So there are साधारण कारण and असाधारण कारणम. असाधारण means an indispensable cause. That's called karanam. So asadharana karanam is called karanam. That trutiya. Karane trutiya. Karanam is what? Asadharana karanam. Asadharana means that which is absolutely required. For example, for cooking, fire is called asadharana karanam. For cooking you require other things also, but what is indispensable for cooking is fire. And that's why Atmabodh said that without knowledge, there is no moksha. Because yatha pakasya vannivajnanam tha jnanam vina moksho na siddhati. So bodhonya sadhanebhyo hi sakshat mokshaika sadhanam pakasya vannivajnanam vina moksho na siddhati. So anya sadhanebhya, with reference to, in comparison with, among all the sadhanas that are there, moksha, jnanam is the direct means for moksha. Because just as without fire, food cannot be cooked, and so also without knowledge, moksha cannot be attained. So jnanam is asadharana karanam. Jnanam is atma sakshatkara. The direct, immediate knowledge of atma is called jnanam. which is asadharana karana for moksha, and what is asadharana karana for jnanam? Atma tattva vivechanam, or vivechanam, or the discrimination or an inquiry into the Atma tattva is the asadharana karanam, or the indispensable cause for knowledge of the Atma, which is again the indispensable cause for moksha. And so, in the 17th verse, this pratigna is being made, now having formed the background of the need of Atma Jnanam, because problem is only avidya and therefore vidya alone can solve that problem, and the nature of vidya also being ascertained, that it is the mithyatva nishya of the jiva and jagat, and satyatva nishya of the Paramatma, all of that having been explained. Now the teacher proceeds to do the pratigna proposition as to what we are going to do subsequently after this verse. So the verse 17 says, Tat sakshatkara siddhyartham Atma tattvam vivicyate Yenayam sarva samsarat Sadhya eva vimuchyate. Tat sakshatkara siddhyartham, for attainment of tat sakshatkara, atma sakshatkara. For the attainment of the sakshatkara or the immediate knowledge of Atma, Atma tattvam vivicyate. Now vivicyate, so vicharyate. So now we are or prathakriyate vivechanam. And therefore we are now going to make conduct an inquiry into the true nature of the Atma for the attainment of the direct knowledge of Atma. And what for? Yena sakshatkarena ayam puman. By which sakshatkara, which direct knowledge? Ayam means ayam puman. This person means adhikari. This adhikari sarva samsarat sadhya eva vimuchyate. Sarva samsara, from all the samsara, from all the suffering, sadhya, immediately vimuchyate, he is released. Therefore now we are going to proceed with an inquiry into the nature of the self, by which knowledge this person, adhikari person, meaning the one who exposes the self to shravanam, manam, nidhyasanam, for whatever length of time that is required, by that knowledge he will be immediately released from all the samsara, meaning this transmigration characterized by birth and death, or this life of limitation. And so, that by which one gets released from the samsara, that Atma Sakshatkara, and for that the means is Atma Tattva Vivechanam. Tat Sakshatkara Siddhyarthamidi Purvena Anvayaha. And so from the 18th verse onwards, now begins the Atma Tattva Vivechanam, an inquiry into the nature of Atma. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhajine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.